Hello. Today we are going to learn how to use the circular saw, also known as the table saw. There are a few items that I would like to show you how they work because you need to become more familiar with them before you begin using the table saw. First one is we have our on-off switch. You will pull the paddle out to turn the machine on, push it in to turn it off. Another thing that you need to know how it works is this silver handle right here. This one will raise and lower the blade. I'll be showing you as we use this machine how high you should set your blade above your material. The handle over here on the left hand side of the machine, and it is like this on all the machines in the shop, will then change the angle of the blade. So we want to stay away from using this handle on the left hand side. So we want to bring our blade back to a 90-degree angle, and then we will be ready to start using our saw. The next thing that you need to know about the table saw is whenever you use a table saw, you should set your blade so that it is only about 1/8 of an inch above your material that you are going to cut. You don't want to have it any higher than that because if an accident happens, you would lose part of your hand. But by setting it like this, that will allow you to then be fortunate enough to go and get something like stitches or steri strips to take care of yourself. Another thing that we want to have an understanding of is how our fence works. We have two measurement sides. You will always be using the right-hand side, and that is where you will set your finish width measurement whenever you're using the saw. Now, if you remember from the machine before, that was the joiner. The purpose of that machine was to joint one edge, and we marked it on our face so that we know that this is our jointed edge. And that purpose was to square our edge so that it was at right angles to our face. Now that good edge that we jointed and marked, we will now be setting up against our fence. So when we run our material through, then we will have two square edges and they will be parallel with each other, which will then help us continue the process of squaring a piece of lumber. Now when you are going to square your piece of wood and you are going to rip it on the table saw, you want to always cut to your finish widths. And to do so, I will set my table saw at 3 inches because that just happens to be the width that I want to cut it to. I make sure that I put the red handle all the way down to lock it into place. I have set my blade so that it is 1/8 of an inch above my material. Now a couple of things before you turn it on. We're going to take our left hand with our hand down, thumb on top, keeping it pushed nice and tight up against the fence. My right hand will just go on the back end with my thumb on the back, fingers on the top, and I will push it forward. One of the things that you want to be aware of is that your left hand never crosses the throat plate. This red plate that covers the blade is the throat plate or the blade plate, and you don't want your left hand crossing that because that's when an accident can happen. And so now when I'm going to start my cutting process, I will turn on my machine, get my hand set up, always make sure that the blade comes to a dead stop before you remove or move any of your material. A couple other items that you want to be aware of is when you are cutting that you want to stand to one side of what is called the miter slot. This slot is used for a different tool when you are going to cross cut on the table saw, but for right now you want to think of having your body even with that, so that when you push your material through, if something was to happen and there was going to be a kickback, that piece of wood would then fly right past you. If you were standing here, you would then be hit by the piece of wood. Another thing to always remember is you will always use an approved push stick whenever you are ripping narrow pieces. In anything, when you have the fence set up less than 7 inches, you will always use a push stick to push your material all the way through the machine. Always remember that the back of the push stick should make it all the way to the back side of the throat plate, so that then nothing can happen and you are out of danger of anything taking place. When you are all done, turn the machine off, stand by it until it comes to a complete stop, and then you will be a safe operator of this machine.